Hi, I'm Ms. Cho, and in this video we'll write the equation of a parabola given its focus and directrix. A parabola is the set of all the points that are the same distance from a given point in a line. That point is called the focus, and the line is called the directrix. The focus is always inside the parabola, and the directrix is always behind. It is like a no-cross line. Why does this matter? One really neat property of the focus is that anything coming into the parabola bounces off and hits the focus. One application of this is concentrated solar power. So in the desert, you have these arrays of mirrors that are angled so that when the sunlight hits the mirror, it bounces and goes to the tower. So wherever the sun hits, it goes to the tower. And in this tower, you have water or some sort of liquid that turns a turbine. And so once it vaporizes and it becomes steam, it turns the turbine and it generates electricity. The same thing happens with sound. Sound waves that come in bounce and hit the receiver, and that's all concentrated here. Scientists use radio telescopes to communicate with satellites and also to look for intelligent life out there. So if there are any aliens out there trying to communicate with us, we might be able to pick it up by parabolic radio telescopes. But how do we know how to angle the mirrors or how the curve of the telescope should be? In order to do that, we need to be able to write the equation of parabola. To write this equation, we're going to use vertex form, which as you recall is y is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k. We're going to move the k to the other side by subtracting it, and that leaves us a times x minus h squared. And we're actually going to replace this a with 1 over 4p. This p is called the focal length. It's the distance between the vertex and the focus, or the vertex and the directrix. If this whole term, the 1 over 4p, is positive, then your parabola opens upward. And then if your term is negative, then your parabola opens downward. It's also possible to have horizontal parabolas. Those open sideways, and they have the equation x minus h is equal to 1 over 4p times y minus k squared. If your 1 over 4p term is positive, it opens to the right. And if your term is negative, then it opens to the left. Let's take a look at an example. Here we're asked to write the equation of a parabola with a focus at 0, negative 2, and a directrix at x equals 2. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a picture of the information we have. I know that my focus is at 0, negative 2, and I'm going to label that f. I also know that I have a directrix at x equals 2. Our second step is to find the vertex. Because every point on this parabola, including the vertex, is exactly halfway between the focus and the directrix, I know that my vertex is going to be smack halfway in between, which is at 1, negative 2. My third step is to decide which way the parabola opens. Because the focus is always inside the parabola and the directrix is always behind it, I can know that my parabola is going to open to the left. Now that I know where my vertex is, the next thing I need to find is the focal length, or p. Remember that my focal length p is the distance between the vertex and the focus, or the vertex to the directrix. In this case, it is 1 unit. Now that I've figured out my vertex and my focal length, I can choose the appropriate equation and start to plug in my values. I'm going to recopy in this next slide. Because my parabola opens sideways, I'm going to use the template x minus h is equal to 1 over 4p times y minus k squared. Once I have this template, I can plug in all the values that I know. H is 1, k is negative 2, and p is 1. I'll simplify this further. Now I need to decide if my a is positive or negative. Because my parabola opens to the left, I know that it's going to be negative. So my final equation is going to be x minus 1 equals negative 1/4 y plus 2 squared. I can check this on Desmos. I've plotted everything we know. We have a focus at 0, negative 2, a vertex at 1, negative 2, and a directrix at x equals 2. I'm going to type in the equation of the parabola that we found. X minus 1 is equal to negative 1/4 times y plus 2 squared. We have a parabola that opens to the left, and it passes through the vertex that we found, and it sits smack between the focus and the directrix that we were given. Let's summarize. First, you draw a picture of the information that you've been given, a focus and a directrix. From there, you find the vertex, which is halfway between the focus and the directrix. Then you decide which way your parabola opens. Your focus must always be inside and your directrix must always be outside. Here are some possibilities of parabolas you could have. Once you decide which way it opens, you're going to find your focal length p, which is the distance between the vertex and the focus, or the vertex and the directrix. In step 5, you choose your equation template. If you have a vertical parabola, you have y minus k is equal to 1 over 4p times x minus h squared. If you have a horizontal parabola, you have x minus h is equal to 1 over 4p times y minus k squared. Once you've decided on your template, you're going to plug in all your known values. You have your h and your k from your vertex and your p from the focal length. After you plug in all your values, you're going to decide if your a term is positive or negative. If your a term is positive, it will open upward or to the right. If your a term is negative, it'll open downward or to the left. Once you have your equation, you can check it by graphing to make sure it has all the properties listed in the problem.